I thought about my mother, my grandmother, my great-great-great-grandmothers, and what they must have thought about as slaves, bringing life into this world. And, we just decided that we were going to live, we were going to live, we were going to struggle, and we're not going to kill our own hopes. We're not going to kill our own life. We're not going to kill our right to live. And so we just decided to be human beings, to be people. In spite of all the people that were trying to squash us down and all the forces that were trying to dehumanize us, we decided to be human.
Hey, Ma.
Hello.
How you feeling?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm good. I'm rested up, fed up, just ate. I feel good.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I know we've spoken already and built some decent rapport, but I'm so excited because I know you're very popular. A lot of people have their eyes on you, and rightfully so, because I was thinking about the name The Trap Witch earlier, right? And I'm like, if she were gonna, if she would have, and this is corny because these are like the corny things I think about. I'm like, if she had a rapper name, I would call her Young Wise.
Young
because
what?
Young Wise, because you are so wise beyond your years. Like when I listen to you speak, you have such a glow about you, and the glow is not. This is not to get caught up in the love and light and the light and all that, but the glow, I mean, is like it's coming from the inside out, and you can look at you and tell that you have a story to tell, and you've come a very long way. And I know that there are so many sisters who listen to the show who would be really inspired by what you have to say. If they didn't know who you were yesterday, they're going to know soon, So,
Thank you so much. I'm starting to hear that a lot, so I should believe it.
Absolutely. Yes. So, in your own words, what is and who is the Trap Witch? Now, I know you as the Trap Witch, and can I use your name? Can I say?
Yes, Tatiana.
Okay. So, yeah, right. So I know Tatiana. Tell me is there a difference between Tatiana and the Trap Witch? Who are these two in one entity?
Well, I have to give you some backstory. The beginning of 2016 was when I really started coming into who I am spiritually through struggle and a lot of depression. And I always looked at people who were bosses. Like, I've always been drawn to, very strong figures, whether it be, in movies, in media, whatever have you. And I was really interested in, and this sounds corny, but, Beyonce came up with that alter ego she had, Sasha Fierce. And, Beyonce is known to be a really humble person, but sometimes when you are a kind, humble person and you get taken advantage of in certain situations, or you feel like your kindness is not getting you ahead, you kind of have to come up with that alter ego. And for me, I sat down and I analyzed, who would I want to be my alter ego from a protection standpoint? Because a lot of times when people say the word ego, it comes from a very arrogant standpoint, and there's a difference between your ego and your shadow side. So I was developing at that time more of the yang of who I was and my shadow side. And I wanted to come up with someone based on someone that I admired, because a lot of times we use people as muses and we need to be our own muse. So I was really drawn to the story of Griselda Blanco, who's an Aquarius like myself. And I was really drawn to her story because she was just a pioneer of a woman in the drug industry, and she just did things so differently. And when I started looking at her story as an Aquarian, I tried to relate to it because she was really innocent, and her innocence became corrupted through heartache, through betrayal, through all the things that the world caused her harm. And instead of her healing from it, she actually developed an ego, and coming into her power, she let that power consume her, which is why she's not alive today, which is why a lot of drug dealers aren't alive today, because they allow that power to consume them. So I said to myself, I can be this boss personality, but how do I do that from a non-destructive standpoint? And so at that time, too, I knew I wanted to start to document my journey, and I really have always identified with Oprah as well, who's also an Aquarius. Her and Griselda had very similar upbringings. They were both raped. They had a hard life, but the difference between the two of them, Oprah decided to heal herself away from the things that caused her harm, and Griselda didn't. So for me, what I said was I wanted to be a combination of the two. So initially, before I became the Trap Witch, my hashtag was always the Trap Oprah. You know, because I felt like you can be a dualist in a way that you can be a beacon of light, but you can also tap into your darkness when you need protection. One of the things that Griselda was really known for and that she developed was what they call a Sicario. And a Sicario is a type of hitman that rides on a motorcycle with the shooter on the back. So for me, I said to myself, Tatiana is the person driving the motorcycle, and T. Blanco was the person on the back with the gun who's protecting if anything should happen. That's the way I had to look at it, you know?
Right.
People always think that healing is love and light, namaste, kumbaya, all that bullshit, and it's really not. I realized that I liked more, and I didn't even realize this till recently, that I'm more of a shadow worker than a light worker.
Right. Most of us are.
Yeah, so for me, I didn't become Trap Witch until last summer when my friend suggested, she's like, you should change your name to the Trap Witch, because I had gotten heavy into my spirituality and all these things, and she was like, the Trap Witch seems legit. So I did it kind of jokingly, and it was hilarious because I had a full-out war on Instagram with a girl who had already had the name Trap Witch. And I'll tell you this story because it's really funny. The name wasn't available, so I put an underscore at the end. And she came to my page, and she was like, she didn't have any posts on her page when I chose the name. And 2 weeks later, she came to my page, and she just went on a tangent. She was like, you're not the real Trap Witch. If you were the real Trap Witch, you wouldn't have to put an underscore at the end of your name. She had a full-on problem. So I didn't respond, didn't say anything. I didn't want to come out of my character. And 2 weeks later, I looked at her page, and she changed her name to something completely different. So I said, you know what, you must not be too invested in this name, the Trap Witch. So I immediately took the underscore off the name and took the name Trap Witch, and she came back with a vengeance. And I said, well, sweetheart, I just did what a Trap Witch would do, take over the property if you're not looking after it. You know? I moved in. You wasn't paying attention. I moved in and claimed the block. So I was like, if you want to Trap Witch, then Trap Witch. So it was funny, and it stuck ever since then. And I didn't really expect it to grow into the brand that it is growing into.
And it is. It is. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So when you ask who the Trap Witch is really, she's a healer, but she's not she's not hiding from you what the struggle is. She's not hiding from you what the streets are really about and what your healing is really about, because it's about TRAP, as I say, take a risk and prosper. And anybody who's had to deal with that type of lifestyle knows that, you know, you get it by any means possible. And for me, I try to encourage people that, you know, not to come out of your character to get it, but tap into that hustler mentality that you are going to make it some way, somehow in this world. It's not always going to be pretty. It's not always going to be, like I said, you know, all white picket fences and, you know, because a lot of that shit is a lie. A lot of people that have, a lot of people that really go far in this life know that, you know, the real test in life comes when you're thrown into the world. That's why a lot of kids go to college and they come out and they're naive to the world, because the experience is in the world. And that's why when I chose my mentors on this journey, I chose people who had hard lives and who had struggles and who were who have lived those type of Griselda Blanco type lifestyles that I admired, so that I could instill that type of strength in myself, if that makes sense.
No, that's beautiful. That's what you're talking about. I was just watching a video, and what you said was in the video was, what are you birthing right now, and what do you have to trust to come into the light? So it's almost like you letting people know that in order for you to be a whole, complete person, and a real and genuine person, you have to go into that the deepest, most uncomfortable, darkest parts of your mind, where those experiences and characteristics and those traits that you don't want anybody to see, you have to go. Those are your treasures. People don't realize that those things, as difficult as it might be to face them, when you bring those things to the light, the pressure that they are under in your body, it creates diamonds. So when you pull that up to the surface and you look at it and you examine it, you know who the real you is. You know what you have really to offer, because you can transform anything negative into something that you can grow from and that you can use. So,
I mean, the best way to tell a person's character is what they do when their back is against the wall.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those difficult situations where you could come out of your character, but you won't. You know, and that's what struggle will teach you at times, is that, you know, are you going to come out of your character and be defeated by the world and put back out what's harming you, or are you going to take the bricks that are thrown at you and build something from it? I made a post the other day that said, you know, people who are not trying to heal themselves, they take the bricks that are thrown at them and they throw them back at people, and they still sit in the rubble amongst the dust. They could be building something from it, but they're still just left with rubble and dust.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you take that and you build a firm foundation. And, you know, it's unfortunate. We're taught a lot of times that we just need to be strong. And that's why when you go through places like the hood and you go through places where there's a lot of poverty, people look a lot older than they are, because they're hardened by life. And they're not taught the essential healing that they need in order to make their life more pleasant. You know, we're taught to be just strong and brush things under the rug, become hardened individuals instead of being vulnerable. And being strong and being, you know, vulnerable is a brave thing. One of my favorite quotes is, being soft and strong is a combination not often mastered.
That's true. That's
you know,
the truth. Yep, I do know.
At the end of the day, you know, do no harm, but take no shit.
Right. And that's even when you're first starting out your journey, it's easy to get confused with all the information out there, because a lot of people are they're told to kind of shun or ignore the dark. It's all about the light. It's all about the goodness and the gladness, and not realizing that the light is just as deceptive as the dark. You know, the light can hit the surface of the water and make it appear red, green, orange, a whole nother color than, you know, what it is, which is clear when you pull it up into a glass. You know, even when it looks blue, the light is hitting the water and it's not actually blue. When you pull it up into a glass, it's as clear as the glass that you have in your hand. So, you know, the light is also a deception. The dark is where you go to find, like you said, those things that you have to trust to bring up and look at it on the surface. So, you know, I just want to use that analogy to explain to people that it's not all about, and you shouldn't be afraid of the dark. You should embrace and appreciate and like you said, maneuver easily from dark to light. Be transformable, shape shift, be flexible and interchangeable. That's where the balance is.
I mean, people when it comes to the occult world and, you know, African spiritual practices, people often they misconstrue what black magic can be or what witchcraft is. I strongly don't believe in throwing witchcraft at people, but I do believe in defensive magic and chaos magic. If someone is causing harm to you or your loved ones, you protect yourself. And in amidst of building that shield, whatever they throw at you that bounces off of you back to them, that's their problem.
Right.
You know?
That's right. Yeah. I call it. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say one of the elders within the community, she calls it clear, protect, and reverse, CPR. She says you have to do CPR on yourself, otherwise you're gonna constantly be a target for malevolent magic. People are out here to get you, and if you think they're not, just stay around long enough. So you clear on a regular basis, you keep your protections up, and you reverse everything that's sent to you, whether negative or positive. You make sure that what you are receiving is given, you know, in equal measure to the people who, you know, are offering it to you. So, but what she was talking about was specifically malevolent magic. So, you know, I think that being able to vacillate between the two, to know when to turn that part of you on and when to, like you said, get back into character. I know for me, I do have a character. What I call it is a representative, right? I say we all have representatives. We all have the people that we show to others, in order to survive, in order to, you know, just to make it from day to day. And, you know, me coming out of character is me becoming my representative, because I'm naturally, and haven't always been, but I'm naturally a very fiery person, very, like direct and straightforward, very in your face. And that's how I am. And so for me to go into character would be for me to be the persona that I developed since I was a child, you know, by influence of, you know, my parents, people telling me how I should be and how I shouldn't be. And so I turn on this kind of sweet character who, you know, who kind of tries to get along with everyone, but that's not really, it's not that I don't try to get along with everyone, because I do. I love my sisters. I love people, period. But it's like, I don't know. We're all out here, I guess, trying to find our bearings and find our way through. But, hello?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. I just went off on a damn tangent.
No, I absolutely believe that. You know, the thing is, a lot of people, especially in our spiritual community, you know, it's become very exploited. It's become very watered down. I mean, I am very sacred when it comes to my practices. I'm more of a, how do I say, my magic that I share with people is more in the motivation of everyday life. But as far as the community has gone, I mean, there's people posting sacred rituals, there Orisha pots, like nothing, private ceremonies that should be sacred. There's no type of sacredness at this time because a lot of people are wearing spirituality as a badge of egotism. And the truth is, you know, if you put all your weapons on the table, people know what you're packing. So they know where your defense is. And I tell people sometimes people can put a beware of dog sign in the yard and they don't have a dog. You know?
Right.
And so is it that we're putting all of this out there to say, hey, I got all of this, or do you really have it? You know, and that's not to knock anybody. I strongly believe in sharing information about practices and the lifestyle because a lot of people are being misled. A lot of people are confused. A lot of people are waking up and they don't know where to start. And even if we can just give them guidance without showing them all these things, because people monkey see, monkey do, they start calling in these energies. They start doing these rituals that they know nothing about. I mean, I recently spoke with a young woman who asked me about ayahuasca. And, I mean, she told me she had never drank in her life. She had never smoked marijuana, none of these things. And she wanted to go to an ayahuasca event. And upon talking to her, she had no idea the history, the backstory, the proper use of what ayahuasca is for. She had told me, you know, I just thought it was to find out what the government and what aliens are doing. And I was like, really? Like, you're about to put your life on the line. This is not something you play with. Because in these sacred traditions, they were very important for people. You know, ayahuasca is a life-changing experience that opens you up spiritually. It opens up your third eye. And I told her, you know, if you're in an environment with people you don't know and you don't know the spiritually transmitted demons that you can get from people, you could put yourself in a really bad situation. And a lot of people put themselves in bad situations. And when it comes to the rituals, when it comes to the energies that they're calling in, I can't tell you how many people I've had tell me that they have these you know, statues or representations of these certain energies in their house, and they can't understand why things are going crazy for them. You know, it's definitely not a game. And I think we need to educate our people that, hey, you know, these things are great in order to find yourself, but don't lose yourself in it. Don't get lost in the sauce in the process.
Right.
And I can speak from experience because I made a post today. I was lost in the sauce a little bit for a while, you know, calling in too much.
It's easy to do when you haven't, and that's something we talked about before too. Theory versus practice. Like theory and knowledge before you start doing anything, because it's a lot, it's just like you just said, it's a lot of sisters who are brand new to the practice, who don't know whether they coming or going, don't know the first thing about energy work, don't know the first thing about shadow work, don't even realize that they have to get a handle on their own frequencies and their own emotions before they start doing anything.
And also, the term, and I tell people, the term cleanliness is next to godliness is literally in all aspects of your life. It has nothing to just do with hygiene. When you come into your spiritual journey, you're supposed to be cleaning up as much as possible in all aspects of your life because they're all interrelated. Just because someone goes and reads a bunch of books on consciousness and the historic information does not mean they have healed themselves as a person. I mean, even myself, you know, I'm still doing work with trauma that I've had for years, you know. Someone can be woke and still have sexual demons. I talk about this all the time. Or, you know, their diet might be messed up. They can't figure out why they still feel foggy because they're pumping themselves with all this genetically modified food. Their vessels are still not clear. And people realize you have to balance your life in all aspects. It's all intertwined. And so they think they have one piece of the puzzle and then it's complete.
Right.
And that's where, you know, it's great. I love all the information that's online, but at the end of the day, once we clear everything up, we have to make sure our heart is clear as well. A lot of us are walking around with a lot of hate in our heart.
Mm-hmm.
How do you expect to elevate? I talk about this all the time. A lot of conscious people, they're really angry. They are so worked up about what the oppression has done to them instead of healing themselves away from it. It's like, okay, we know what they've done, so now what are you going to do to better yourself? This has nothing to do with them now.
Thank you. Absolutely nothing.
Like once you remove the enemy from the outside, because you have to realize the biggest enemy you have is within.
Mhm.
If that hate is living inside of you, then that's what's gonna rule you.
Right.
That's more destructive than an enemy on the outside.
Mhm. Because it'll have you believe in things that aren't even there anymore. Believing in threats that do not exist outside of you anymore. You know.
And that's the same thing with when it comes to witchcraft. I was in a situation, and I tell people a lot of times, someone threatening you with witchcraft can have more of an impact than them actually doing it on you if your mind is manipulated into thinking that that's what's causing all the angst in your life. You know, people will feed themselves over and over. This is why my life is going wrong, because someone told me they did that, and then find out nobody even did anything to them. You know, I've used that defense mechanism before on 2 occasions where I was in a dispute with a man and they were about to physically assault me, and all I had to say is, I will hex you. And one of them got scared. They never came back to that establishment again.
Wow.
You know? And because the mind is such a powerful thing.
Right.
And that's why in Ifa and Santeria and these traditions, the Ori is the key to everything. Ori means your consciousness.
Right.
But like I said, you open your consciousness, but you got to open your heart. You have to unblock all of your chakras in order to elevate. Kundalini energy is activating all the chakras, not just one.
Right.
So we have to help people get through these blockages that are hindering them. Then that's where the shadow work comes in.
Let's talk about that for a minute. The Kundalini theme, I remember you were telling me about, we were talking about childbirth and pregnancy, I believe. And you were talking about a serpent-like energy that you felt. Do you remember that conversation?
Yes.
It was like, okay, and then when you think about practices coming out of Africa with the serpent, and in the U.S. and Haiti and Jamaica, and the serpent represents life, right? For African peoples or peoples of indigenous descent even. It's not something evil. It's actually something that represents flexibility, awakening, moving up in levels of awareness and consciousnness, right? The Dambala figure, Shambhala in Asia. What else? Just all these, the Mami Wakas with the serpent around her, like on her shoulders, let me say. Not around her neck, but resting on her shoulders. What do you think, that serpent energy it's getting more popular these days? Like, what do you think that represents in 2017?
In 2017?
Mhm. Or in general, like just in general in life, just period.
Well, I identify with serpent energy mainly because I feel like the snake is such a sacred creature, because how many times does it shed its own skin in order to grow through life?
Right.
Every time it sheds its skin, well, first of all, when a snake prepares to shed, their eyes go blue. I don't know if you know this, but their eyes go clouded, and it's very creepy looking, but it's like a very glossiness. It's like they almost go within. And it's funny because you're not supposed to handle snakes when they're preparing to shed, when their eyes have that glossiness. So when you think about it, how often when we go within, that's the most time you have to handle us with care, because that's when we're fragile. That's when we're doing our healing. That's when we're about to shed in order to. You know what I mean? So for me, that's what I identify most with in regards to the snake. And the snake, too, you know, there's so much medicine that comes from these creatures. They're all muscle. They are, they're very, how do I say, a snake is very, very much a stand-up animal. It will look you straight in the eyes even when it's about to attack you.
Right.
You do have snakes in the grass, yes, but the snake, for the most part, they will always attack you head on. They're not an animal to me that often, they are camouflaged, but their camouflage, how do I say, they can camouflage, but they just are what they are. They're unapologetic creatures. And a lot of times people don't realize the way they kill. It's not even that they constrict you and they squeeze until your heart explodes. It puts you into cardiac arrest. And a lot of times, you know, that pressure, and that's what we kind of have to do in life with things that attack us. We have to constrict it, and we have to get it in order, get it in order until it's no more, until it explodes and it's no more. Because sometimes does this even make sense? I'm kind of on a tangent right now.
Yeah, no, you're fine. You're fine. I'm following you, because what I actually saw in my mind was that we are what the snake squeezes, but based on the nature of rebirth after death, we are going through cycles of, you know, pressure and being like squeezed by life. And that is all, you know, take us to another state of rebirth. So, and that is what another thing about what the snake represents, which is resurrection. Like you said, it sheds its own skin as it grows. So,
and sometimes the snake even, I've watched a lot of like videos on snakes recently, and sometimes when the snake goes to feed, like, or it'll bite it. Sometimes the snake bites its own tail. And there's a lot of pictures in the occult world of a snake eating its own tail. Now, I can't tell you exactly what it represents, but sometimes that's what we do. We bite ourselves. You know, sometimes we get so caught up, like even when it comes to, I tell people sometimes a dog chases its own tail sometimes, not thinking that it's themselves that they're chasing.
That symbol is it's for infinity or wholeness. The snake is eating its own tail as a means of I don't want to say what's the word? When you live forever.
Yes.
The immortality. Infinity, wholeness, immortality. That's what it represents. But yeah, essentially that is the point that all of that is. That's why, because the serpent theme is really strong right now in the Black witch community, the melanated witch community. I see a lot of sisters, and while I don't agree with people posting pictures of their altars and you know, their candle magic work and all the different work that they do. People post pictures of their work in progress, pictures of it after the fact, and like you said, nothing is sacred anymore. But there are things that they're finding out in the process of sharing everything, not keeping things sacred that, they're learning about. And we'll hopefully get to the point of keeping things sacred. But a lot of sisters are finding snake skins everywhere. Like people are saying, oh, I found a whole snake skin. I can't believe it. Or what is it for? What can I use it for? And, I think it's just a really powerful thing how we're all coming into our magic. Right around, I want to say right around the same time. I saw a woman. She made a post about how she says, I've complete, and she's young. She was born in like 91. She's like, I'm giving up on black women. She's a black woman. I'm giving up on black women because, we're not even trying anymore. And I'm like, I don't know who your friends are, but a lot of the sisters that I know are doing more than trying. Like, they actually doing it, So I'm just very, very happy to see that we're all coming.
The thing is about us in the black community, I mean, I spoke about this the other day. It's like, everybody, and this is why it's hard for us as black people to do business together. There's just something about black people that they're very competitive. We're very competitive. Mm-hmm. I think it's because it's in our nature. We're warrior spirits, a lot of us. So it causes us a lot of angst, and it causes us not to be able to move forward. A lot of people are taught, how do you say, there's not a lot of teamwork. I've experienced my fair share of disappointment in trying to bring people together, and people just can't put their ego aside.
Right.
We're one of the groups of people that we still try to segregate ourselves amongst each other because it's who's better, who's faster, who's this, who's that. So a lot of ego. That's why, but it's a lot of it too is learned helplessness in a way, because I watched this clip that someone shared the other day of how, like, in the olden days they would teach salesmen how to sell to the Negro. And it's like
I was just looking at that.
It's crazy because, like, that's really though what's been taught. Like, you have to be better, like you have to be flashier. It's all about what you possess,
Mm-hmm. That's because we never had nothing though. Like that I mean, and I am the last person to make excuses for our people, because I honestly feel like we're past that point. But I also know that a lot of it has to do with generational conditioning. Most of the ways that we behave is, like you said, it's learned behavior. It has been passed down to us from one generation to the next. And the only way to...
Even with the food, people think that, sweet tea, cornbread, collard greens, neck bones, all this stuff is the food. But I'm like, that's what's been killing y'all for years.
And the food it's not even the same as it used to be, because the way we fed animals back then and the way we grew food out the ground to eat it, we ate collard greens straight from the ground. We wasn't eating glory greens out the can, with the pieces inside. We weren't eating frozen corn. Like, we were eating fresh food that grew straight out the ground. So while you had our ancestors who were eating all kinds of crazy stuff like that we would call crazy now, like the pork and, the way they fried the chicken and the way they prepared, everything. It was a totally different time. Now you're getting all these genetically modified foods, these fruits and vegetables that's all fucked up. And it's like, we cannot do things. It's a different time. We can't do what we've always done. So yes, we do. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
My mother told me that because, sometimes my mother has questioned the way that I eat. And she told me, her parents grew up on lard and all these certain things. And my great-grandmother lived to be 105 years old. So she said, I don't understand all this new age fad dieting and all this stuff. But, like you said, it's even different in Africa than it is here. When I went to Africa and I tasted the meat over there, it has a completely different taste. You can tell it with the hormones that's pumped with over here. You know, everything over there is just different for the most part. Now there's parts of it that's being, you know, corrupted as well. There's corruption everywhere. They're importing cabbages to Jamaica right now that if you put them on a stove, they don't burn. You know, they're even making false vegetables. You have to look at the codes too. Someone was telling me that you have to look at the numerical codes because something that looks like a good vegetable for you it's genetically modified. Right.
And I read something about that, how our genes are so strong that in order to break us down, they have to inject certain modifications into the food so that it can integrate into our systems and have us all fucked up. And people don't even, they're not even paying attention to what we don't, and me included, you know, I'm not excluding myself from this equation because I eat crazy sometimes. And, you know, I know better. So I know how difficult it may be for someone who doesn't know any better and they're just eating whatever from wherever, whenever, without detoxing at all, without, you know, paying attention at all. But we have to get like how they say is above, so below. What's in the spiritual is coming into the physical. So the things, and vice versa, in the physical goes into the spiritual. So what you're putting into your body is going to affect the outcomes of your focus, the outcomes of your intention, the outcomes of your work. So it's really important that we get a handle on that food thing.
Absolutely. I mean, everything starts within.
Yeah.
Like you said, as above, so below. And we have to get back to that. We have to understand that a true spiritual journey or awakening strips you down to the bare minimum, just everything within you. That you realize that nothing matters besides yourself. I mean, that's how animals evolve.
Right.
Animals, you know, survival of the fittest. They evolve through just themselves in the environment that they're in.
Right.
And sometimes we forget, as humans, we forget that we are mammals. We're animals, in a sense, you know? And it's a jungle out here. And even when it comes to the spiritual community, I've never, you know, I'm getting more in touch now, but I'm not huge on crystals. I'm not huge on a lot of things. Not that I don't get into them, but I feel like, who are you without them? Who are you without the tarot cards, without the stones, without any of the, oh God, what's the word? It's on the tip of my tongue. I can't remember it right now. Amulets like that. I mean, these things do have healing properties, but they depend on the energy that they are being combined with. That's why I say to people, you know, the bruja makes the brujeria. The brujeria don't make the bruja.
Thank you.
And some people's natural ashe is just what it is.
Yeah.
So that raw ashe is the most powerful thing you can possess on your journey. And your journey is only supposed to increase that.
Right. And I had a sister inbox me not too long ago she was asking me for a spell. I forget what it was. And my response to her, and what I responded to her was that I don't really do spells. And she's like, really? So what do you do? I was like, well, I practice, I don't have a name for it, but since you asked me, I practice mostly mental alchemical magic. And she's like, what's that? And I'm like, I focus on what I want and I focus on what I desire, and I'm so intent in the moment. I may put, you know, things that represent the elements in front of me to help me with my focus, but I mentally hone in on what it is I want, and it manifests for me very quickly. And
they post their work that's in progress. You are allowing
Right.
other energy into your work.
Right.
So who's to say that that's not going to corrupt your work? It is not going to manifest the way you want. That's why oftentimes when you tell people what your plans are, they never manifest in that fashion.
Mhm. That's right.
You know? Because you're allowing people to put their energy on it.
Yeah. Yep, and that's something that, a lot of sisters, they have to be, and sisters get so offended when you say things, like when you correct or try to help them adjust some things. They take it personal. They don't really take it as, sisterly help or sisterly love coming from a genuine place. It's like, oh, you think you know everything, or oh, you think you're better than me. Like, no. Not at all. Like, I remember when I was there, I was trying to figure things out, and I didn't have any help. I didn't have any. Let me take that back. I had help, but I didn't ask for it. My teachers came to me. People started showing up out of nowhere in my life, answering questions that I had. As I was already doing self-study, as I was already learning for myself. I had people come and tell me things and share things with me and give me shortcuts and proper procedures and protocols. Like, when you start to get, and this goes back to what you were saying about when animals are evolving in the wild, they are so intently focused on themselves and their own, like others like them, so that they can do what animals do, which is procreate, make more animals, build their little animal communities. Like, they are so intently focused on themselves that everything they need, Mother Nature, Earth, is always going to provide everything that you need anyway. And so I try to encourage sisters, instead of trying to get everybody around you to give you answers, just, tell me what I should do with this. Tell me how to do that. What I got to do to get this done. Why don't you go look it up? Why don't you go meditate? Why don't you go within yourself and get these answers straight from the source, which is your highest mind? That's all you, and, people don't want to hear that. They want the easy way out. And it's like, you don't even realize the easiest way out is to go inside.
I mean, yesterday I received a message from a follower, and I think she blocked me. I think she blocked me, but she pretty much asked me, she didn't ask me, but, and this is, I don't know if I'm wrong to say this, but she said to me, I'm in a toxic situation. I leave. I know I this and that. Tell me how. And I'm like, to me, that's a contradictory question, or that's a rhetorical question. It's the same thing when someone has recently asked me, how do I become self-sufficient? How can anybody else tell you how to be self-sufficient when the key word is self?
Right.
People want their hand held way too much throughout the journey when they don't realize a lot of it you will spend in solitude. You have contributors, you have mentors, but good mentors only teach you how to be the best version of yourself. And a lot of them will tell you, you got to do this on your own. They'll give you the basic things, but then they want to know if you're really willing to do it. My padrino, one of the main things he said when he came to visit the last time was, when you're a child or when you're a student, you go to school. School don't come to you.
Right.
So what happens when you want to learn something? You go to school. So that means you go out and you seek the information that you want. So he says, if you're going to a school and you're not learning, what do? Do you stay in that school and continue not to learn? You go find another school.
Mhm.
And he's a hilarious man, because every time I see a picture of Harry Potter, I bust out laughing, because one of the main things he loves to say is, everybody wants to be Harry Potter.
Right.
Like everybody wants to be a Harry Potter, Harry Potter, Harry Potter. And that's the truth. A lot of people are walking around like this spiritual stuff is Harry Potter. This is Hogwarts.
Right. This shit is gritty.
Like, I literally the other day was going to do my work. I've been doing some work at the river, and I'm walking there, and I'm walking a half mile there, a half mile back, and I'm like, God, this takes a lot. You know, a lot of times people don't understand that these practices take time to manifest. It's a real test of your faith. They are working religions. I've known people that they were given a bow, and a bow is like, you know, a sacrifice or an offering you have to make to, you know, these spirits or whatever, and some of them require you to come 25 days in a row. Do you know how much discipline it comes to have to do something 25 days in a row? Some people will get this by the 5th day, but then that's a test that shows their faith. If you have faith that this is going to work for you, you know, faith will move mountains. God wants you to meet him halfway, him, he, she, whatever. That it's the law of attraction.
Mhm.
How bad do you want it? Are you putting out that good energy that you're going to get it? And sometimes you have to realize it's not going to come in the form that you expected it to.
Right.
You know, as a daughter of Oya never gives you something the way you expect it.
Well, hell no. Hell no.
Tear your life apart, leave you with what matters to rebuild what you need from what matters.
And that is a really tough realization to come to, especially for somebody like me who has had it fairly easy my whole entire life. Like I grew up, my father was in the military. He was in the Coast Guard for 30 years. My mother was a stay-at-home mom for most of my life, right? She homeschooled us. She, you know, tried her very, very best to protect us. And, you know, they sheltered us from a lot of shit. A lot of stuff that we needed in our adult lives, we didn't get growing up. We were pacified a lot. We were, you know, just kind of coddled a lot, and we were very unprepared for the real world. And so to go from that environment to being completely on my own and feeling really alone and trying to figure out, you know, who I am and what I need to be doing and all that good stuff, like to find out that the reason why I keep getting slapped around is because I'm not accepting the new reality and I'm not accepting who I am. It's a wake up call, you know. And so for most of us, even if we weren't sheltered and we grew up a certain kind of way, whenever we're trying to grow and we haven't decided to put the work in or to learn the lessons, we're going to keep getting smacked around until we start applying the lessons that are being given to us, you know. And so all the things that we complain about, you know, our relationships, our friendships, the people we attract into our lives, the circumstances we attract into our lives, it's all us. You know, it's all how we're processing this life that we've been given, and the way we act out our programs, you know. And so we have to start to really get into that self-analysis and that self-healing and acknowledging who and what we are so we can get past these points where we're stagnated as a people. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep. Well, Mama, it is, let's see. All right. Well, I'm trying to think if I think I asked all my questions. Do you have anything for me? Any questions for me?
My question. Well, I know that you told me that you're into a lot of, you know, healing work that a lot of our people need as well to help themselves. So I think that it's great that a lot of us women are coming together, not even just women, but people in our community. We have to understand that everybody is on the same journey in a way, because we all have the same purpose, which is love and to help each other in servitude. And everybody has their own contribution to make. And that's what I don't get in our community, that everybody has a role to play. It's just like in Santeria, in my religion, whatever, you know, when we come together to do ritual or we come together to do anything within the family, there's one person every person has their role.
Mhm.
And every person's role has a contribution to the bigger cause. And I'm glad that we got together, and I'm hoping that we can continue to spread the word that everybody's on their own personal path, but we have to be passionate towards one another, to understand that when we work together, we serve the bigger picture. You know?
That's right. Yeah.
When we remove our egos and work with love towards one another, we don't have to like everybody. We're not going to like. There's lots of people I don't like on a personal level, but sometimes even the people you don't like on a personal level have an expertise that they can extend to you, and you have one that can extend to them and can still serve the bigger picture.
Right.
You know, a lot of times we have to understand, if we want to help our people, we have to detach in certain aspects from personal things. You know, if someone has a company and they know it's helping our community, put into that person's company. You have something to offer to them too. That's what coexisting is about. You ain't got to like everybody.
That's right. I say that all the time. And that's the crux of the statement. One of my sisters, her name is Aoife Shile, she came up with this statement. She says, and it's her slogan for her business, it says, sisterhood is my religion. Now, just like any religion, you have aspects that you may not agree with, but you embrace your practice, right? You love and appreciate all the parts of your practice, whether you agree with it or not. And I feel the same way about my sisters. I may not agree with your processes. I may not like everything that you do, but I tell you what, you always keep it funky with me. I'm going to always keep it funky with you. So please do me that solid. We can at least be real and honest and direct and straight up with each other. You know, from a place of genuine love, because we love ourselves, we can extend that to other women, you know, and so that's really what it, like you just said, that's what it's all about, respect and honor. I honor you. I see you for who you are, even if we disagree on certain things. So I love you, sis. Can you please tell everybody where they can find you? I know you have a pretty big Instagram following. Just tell everybody where else they can connect with you and utilize your services.
Well, first of all, I love you back, and I appreciate you having me on. You can find me on Instagram, The Trap Witch, or you can visit my website, www.thetrapwitch.com. If you want to contact me, it's thetrapwitch@gmail.com.
Got you. Keep it simple.
Yes, thank
all
you.
Right. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on, and I can't wait. We got to do this again soon.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, take care. Have a good evening, and I'll talk to you soon, Mama.
You too. Have a good one.